Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our Transition Tuesday this evening. We want to thank you so much for taking time out of your evening to come and join us. This evening's topic is wills and trust, and which kid do you trust? So we've got a lot of information packed in here for you this evening. We want to honor your time. We want to deliver some great information that will allow you to make some probably necessary changes after you hear some of the information that we've got for you this evening. But we want to welcome you and thank you for spending the evening with us. I want to take just a moment. My name is Jill Campbell. I am a member of the Kathy Chiero group at Keller Williams Greater Columbus. Our office is located at Easton Town Center. And I want to take just a moment and open our evening up tonight and just share with you a little bit about the market and what we're experiencing. We'll actually get into a lot more greater detail at our next Transition Tuesday, which will be, I believe it's on the 18th, and it will talk about the residential side of things. But I just want to give you some insight. I was so very lucky to be on vacation last week, and I actually put a new home on the market on Friday when I was still out of town. And this home was listed on Friday. This is a strategic way that we list homes at the Kathy Chiero Group. We listed on a Friday so that the homeowner can be out of the home because of just how crazy this market is. We have a lot of activity very early on, have them leave the home for the duration of very fast-paced and a lot of showings in the first several days. So we listed this home on Friday while I was still out of town, knowing that we would have an open house on Sunday. So I returned from vacation on Sunday morning, had this open house from 2 to 4, and we're just absolutely inundated at this particular open house that was in Gahanna, one of our suburbs of Columbus. We literally had people lined up the driveway and down the sidewalk to the next door neighbor. And it was on a cul-de-sac. So if you know anything about cul-de-sacs, it wasn't a short cul-de-sac, it was a long cul-de-sac. So we probably had 20 people standing and waiting in line at 2 o'clock to get into that home. That home actually ended up receiving 11 offers, which as many of you that have been on our programs before, you hear Kathy talk about the kind of market that we're experiencing, which we will call a super hyper sellers market. And again, what we're dealing with is the supply and demand issue of our market right now. So if you are someone that is faced with wanting to sell your home, needing to sell your home, this is a very great market in which to do that. Right now, today, we had in the MLS for active listings 1,195 homes. You heard me correctly. I said 1,195. In a normal balanced market, we would experience 13 to 15,000 homes on the market at a given time where we have balanced buyers and sellers. Now, of course, in Central Ohio, we've not experienced that in many years. But we are experiencing still a very strong sellers market. So some of the information that you're going to learn tonight is going to be dealing more with the things that you can do to protect the investments that you have with your wills and trusts. And we even have with us a very dear friend of ours at the Kathy Chiero Group, Michelle Renda, is going to share some personal experience with us as to some decisions and unfortunate decisions that she had to make in a very quick time period, something that she was not expecting at all. So Michelle is going to share with us. We've got Scott Stevenson with Northwest Title. That wait till you hear the information that he has to share. Every time I hear him talk about cyber fraud and things like that, I'm taking notes, and I'm just very intrigued by the information that he shares with us to keep us and our information safe. And I think he'll also share a little bit about title insurance and things like that. But very excited to welcome Scott with us too. And then we also have Tim Jarvis with Jarvis Law. They specialize really in the elder care, planning ahead for the second half of life. And so we just really have a great lineup for you this evening. We're so thrilled and honored to have you all with us, and we look forward to the information that you're going to share. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Tim, we're going to start with you tonight. I think maybe you're going to take us on a trip and just give us some great information. So welcome, Tim. We're so glad that you're here with us.
Well, I appreciate you having me, Jill, and to everyone else who's joining us this evening. Let me go ahead and pull up my slide presentation. And it looks like the one that's loaded, Brandon, is Scott's. If we could switch that out to mine. There we go. Thank you. All right. So I want to be cognizant of everyone's time this evening, as well as our other presenters. So I'm going to keep this short and sweet. But we're going to be talking about, as you see on the screen, you've worked hard for what you have. How do you hold on to it? How do you make sure you don't lose it? So just real briefly, because I don't want to assume that anyone has any particular experience with this necessarily. So why do estate planning? Well, it really comes down to protecting you, protecting your family from all the potential pitfalls out there, lawsuits, inadvertent mistakes where maybe someone is disinherited, not intentionally. If you or your loved one, or if you're married to your spouse, if for whatever reason you're no longer competent, meaning legally you can no longer handle your affairs, whether or not that's going to be a huge legal challenge for you and your family is going to depend on whether you've addressed that possibility ahead of time. And by making sure you've got your affairs in order, that really helps to minimize the disputes that often come into play when someone passes away. All right, so as far as the documents that I think everyone really needs to have in place, now this is just at a minimum. I'm not suggesting the list you see here would be sufficient for everyone, but at a bare minimum, you'd want to have at least a last will and testament. Now, we'll talk here in a second why that might not be the best option for you and your family. You may want to look into a trust. And there are many, many different types of trusts. Each one is designed for a very specific situation. We don't have time this evening to go through every possible iteration, but it might be something that you want to consider. The financial power of attorney, this is where you're naming someone else who can just step into your shoes and manage any of your affairs, with the thinking that if for whatever reason you're not competent, maybe a stroke or dementia, that it's not going to be a huge legal issue for your family. Your decision maker, as named in your power of attorney document, just steps into your shoes and takes over. The medical power of attorney, this is where you're naming someone else who can tell the doctors what to do for you if you can't do that yourself, and possibly a living will. Now, not all of you may want the living will. This is a document where if you sign it, you're basically saying you don't want to be kept alive on the life support machines if there's no real hope you're ever going to get better. So for lack of a better term, that's the pull the plug document. Now, if that's not the way you feel about that issue, it's fine. There's no right or wrong answers with this. You just wouldn't want the living will. And by having these documents in place before anything happens, you really will minimize the odds that the family is going to be fighting over any of these decisions. And one of the biggest things is if you're not competent down the road, by having these documents in place, we can avoid the guardianship process. This is a process that's overseen by the probate court, where if someone is no longer competent, the court is going to verify that that's the case. And if they do, then they remove all of the decision-making ability from that person, and they give that authority to someone else, the guardian. This process can be incredibly frustrating as well as expensive. So you really want to avoid that at all costs. Now, one of the things I want to just briefly mention, because this is one of the biggest misconceptions we hear from our clients, when we first start working with them, is that I think we've all been told that you really need to have a will. And I agree with that. But that the will should be there as a just in case. And the reason I say that is if the will controls who gets what when you've passed away, that is the probate process. Over the years, I've met with a lot of families that they knew they wanted to bypass this probate process. Not all of them understood why, but they assumed that if they had a will, that meant they didn't have to go through this process. And they thought it was only if you didn't have a will that you had to go through this probate. And unfortunately, that's not how this works. Think of your will as the instructions you're leaving to the probate court judge to tell him or her who you want your stuff to go to and who you want to put in charge of that process, meaning who your beneficiaries are, who your executor is. But again, if the will controls who gets what when you're gone, that by definition is the probate process. Now, there are two main reasons why you don't want to put your family through this. It comes down to time and money. As you can see on the slide, the average length of time it takes to get through this process here in Ohio, we're looking at anywhere from 8 to 12 months. And that's not even the worst of it. The worst of it, in my mind, is the cost. AARP did a study on this a couple years ago, and they determined the average cost to get through this probate process. And once you've paid everyone who's involved with this, is anywhere from 5 to 7% of everything you own. Now, what most people don't necessarily understand, even if they're familiar with the cost, the lion's share of that money, it's not going to the probate court, it's not going to the state. The lion's share of that is going to the attorney who's handling the estate for your family. And the reason why I think it's important for you all to know that is if the attorney you've worked with was really more concerned about what works best for him or her and not necessarily as concerned with what works best for you and your family, well, they may set up all of their clients to have to go through this. I mean, this is incredibly lucrative for the attorney. So if the will is really the cornerstone of your estate plan, it determines who gets what. Again, that by definition, that means the probate process. Now, there are many, many ways you can bypass this process. We don't have time this evening to go through every possible way, but bottom line is here in Ohio, you can set up every asset that you can possibly own so that it will automatically bypass this probate process. In the vast majority of cases, probate is going to be the single most expensive way to handle your affairs once you're gone. All right, we're going to briefly talk about what I think is the single biggest risk, financial risk, that most of us will face in the rest of our lifetimes. And that's the risk of needing long-term care. And so we're going to talk briefly about how those rules work as far as what you're allowed to keep and what they're going to force you to spend. So Medicaid is the program that would pay for someone's long-term care expenses, but it is a means-tested program, meaning they're going to look at how much money someone has. And the rules as far as how much you're allowed to keep, those are going to be different based on whether you're single or married. So if you're single, the math is really easy. And you can see the information on our slide here. The most you can have in total countable assets, which this includes your home, includes all your bank account money, any investment accounts you have, retirement accounts. The most you can have and still get approved for Medicaid is $2,000. So you pretty much have to be broke before Medicaid's going to step in. Now, the rules are a little bit better if you're married. So we'll take a look at that. So generally speaking, if someone is married and only one spouse needs long-term care and they apply for Medicaid, as long as the other spouse is still living in the home is exempt, meaning temporarily Medicaid can't do anything with it. With all the other assets, the bank accounts, the investments, the retirement accounts, basically what they do, again, is if only one spouse needs Medicaid, they're going to add up all of those assets. Doesn't matter whose name is on what account. If you're married, they consider everything to be jointly owned. And then generally what they do is they just split that right down the middle. Each spouse gets half, whichever one is going into the nursing home, as an example, they have to spend down their half until they have no more than $2,000 left. And the spouse who's still living in the home, they get to keep the other half. Now, that's the good news, the 50-50 split. Unfortunately, it's not always an equal split. There is a cap or a maximum amount that they're going to let the healthy spouse keep. And this is a federal rule, so it doesn't matter what state you're in, the number is the same. And it's not overly generous. It's the figure you can see there on the slide, $130,380, which means if someone has more substantial assets and they're married, let's say they have, well, more than $260,000. If one spouse needs, let's say, nursing home care, the other spouse doesn't get to keep half, the healthy spouse, they get to keep a maximum of $130,380. Everything else is going to have to be spent on the other spouse's care, which is why I'm saying if someone doesn't plan for this ahead of time, single biggest financial risk that most of us will face in the rest of our lifetimes. Now, we're on a limited time basis here, so I just wanted to kind of plant a couple of these seeds in the back of your mind, where we are doing a more in-depth presentation. It's entitled Trust 101, what every family needs to know about how trusts protect wealth, where we will be spending a good bit of time also talking about the legal planning options that would allow you to protect what you have from future long-term care expenses. So that presentation is going to be on Saturday, May the 15th at 10 a.m. It'll be a full hour presentation with a Q&A session. So if you want to register for that, just open the chat box. Should be on the side of your screen there. It says chat. Open the chat box and just type in yes. And my staff will reach out to you and make sure you get scheduled for that. Now, if any of you have a loved one in the nursing home now, don't make the mistake of thinking that it's too late. I think most of us have heard about the 5-year look-back period for Medicaid. And while that's important, it's not the end of it. So even if you have a loved one in the nursing home today, the only time it really is too late is once they're already broke. If they're not yet broke, whatever they have left, we can generally save at least half of that. But time is definitely of the essence. So if you have a loved one in the nursing home today, type in the word urgent in the chat box, and someone from my team will reach out to you this evening to get you scheduled for a no-cost consultation so that we can walk you through the available options to be able to preserve, like I said, generally at least half of those assets. So as you can probably tell, I could talk all night about this, but again, I want to be cognizant of your time and the other presenters' time. So I'm going to go ahead and adjourn. But again, if you want to register for that webinar on the 15th, or if you have a loved one in the nursing home now, either type in yes for the webinar or urgent, and my staff will reach out to you and get that scheduled. I appreciate everyone's time and wish you all the best of luck.
Tim, thank you so much. And I tell you, my head is just spinning because I think in terms of, they didn't teach us stuff like this in school. And for many of us, school was such a long time ago, right? So I'm so grateful to be partnered with somebody like Jarvis Law that can inform us. So please take advantage of these extra seminars that Tim and his team have provided for you. And thank you, Tim, for mentioning our chat. If you have questions throughout our information this evening, please feel free to put your questions in the chat box. We will stick around and we'll get those questions answered for you at the end. But yes, some really great information there. And as Tim said, it's not too late. We still have time to make decisions. We just have to make sure that we know what decisions we need to make, right? Well, I want to go back again to my story of talking about this market. You know, I had an opportunity to go back and just kind of preview when we did this wills and trust and which kid do I trust 6 months ago when we did this presentation. And at that time, Kathy was sharing the market snapshot of what it was. And she shared at that time that inventory levels were at 3,000 homes on the market. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I wish we had that today. As I was telling you about the story of the home that went into contract from being held open, we had 20 people standing in line. We probably had overall 50 to 60 people entering the home just during that 2-hour period. We had about another 35 showings as a result of just regular showings with agents. But it's just such a reminder of how things change so quickly in our market. This was 6 months ago. We even find ourselves as real estate agents needing to know different language in which to write in our contracts so that they can be accepted. I mean, even terminology is changing. And so it's just such a fast-paced market. It's one that can bring great results for people. And we certainly need to know how to invest that in the end. And Tim can help us with that. Next up, have a very great lady that I want to introduce to you. She too has experienced a whole lot of change in the last year and several months. Michelle Renda is joining us this evening, and Michelle is going to share a little bit about some of what Tim was talking about of being caught on the backside of something very unexpected. So, Michelle, we're so glad to have you tonight, and we're so grateful that you are willing to let us take a little peek into your life personally, and we just welcome you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, like a lot of us, 2020 was not the best year for many of us for many reasons last year, but one thing that happened to me personally is I actually lost my husband very unexpectedly in February of last year, mid-February. And we're in our early 50s. We've got teenagers, and we were planning on, how do we put the kids through college, let alone thinking about the next step. And being faced with that decision, you think about all the things that you prepare for, and all the things that Tim talked about is the ultimate, roadmap and journey that you have to take. But, we thought we were in good shape. We had, health insurance and homeowners insurance and life insurance. But, did we have the right kind of insurance? And it was kind of one of those peel back the onions as my situation unfolded. And then to make matters worse, 3 weeks later, I have a small business, and my business shut down. So I kind of thought of last year as thinking through what I was going to talk about tonight as, business continuity and life continuity. I was faced with trying to keep both things going at the same time. And you have to have that roadmap that Tim laid out to ultimately protect what you've worked so hard for. But what I found is even going back to the very basics and just, what can you do at the very minimum today to start preparing for the bigger tasks that you have to take as you go through your life's journey. And that is, just talking to your your spouse or significant other or whomever you share a household with, where does the money sit? Where are the accounts? My husband handled all the personal expenses. I handled the business stuff. And, and when you put them together, there was a gap on either side. One of us knew more than the other. And, trying to unravel some of that really, really was a challenge. So knowing what you have and where everything exists was probably the most critical thing that I had to start putting together as for our life continuity, for lack of a better term. And just starting with, I would say the most important thing for us was just starting a list of accounts and passwords and who has what and what do we have to pay. And because, when tragedy strikes unexpectedly, your life's still going on and bills still have to be paid. So it's really important to really kind of understand where you're at. Kind of using that life continuity, business continuity, it's really just understanding who has the best skills to help you, navigate that journey, whether it's external resources like Tim. In fact, I was fortunate to to catch up with Tim last year when he was doing some Zoom sessions, just training people on how to navigate through these things through COVID. And, that was so enlightening. So there's so many external resources, but who are the resources within your own household, and what skill sets do they have to help you? We talk about which kid do you trust? It's really who has the best skill set to kind of keep your life going. And if you look at it that way, maybe there's not so much fighting over who's doing what. But, there's a lot of things that have to be done. But what I would recommend is, start with the basics and just understand and get a handle on what you actually have. Get some detailed information. So, if you're in a situation where you have to call on those things, kind of keep your life going, you have access to those resources in your own home. I've actually started to create a binder so that my daughter, who just turned 18, can now learn some of these things, should something happen to me short term or long term, before we have all of the big stuff covered. So that's what I would say is, make sure you have the right insurance, check your policies, and make sure that your beneficiaries are up to date. Little things like that. Those are the important everyday things, kind of the low hanging fruit that you can do while you're preparing for all of the larger tasks that Tim can help you out with.
Michelle, I think, again, right, what you're talking about are the things that they don't teach us in school. I mean, you've got an 18-year-old daughter. We can all take a survey of our teenagers. They don't teach us this kind of stuff, right?
Right.
There's really things that are important that affects our lives that we need to know. When you think in terms of, you and I were talking a little bit earlier about if you knew then what you know now, share something with our audience this evening that you would absolutely put into effect right now as soon as you could.
Yeah. Well, the thing I learned the quickest is you don't know what you don't know. And, but what I would say is, from start investing in a life insurance policy, we all think about, oh, that's something that will happen down the road, or, oh, I don't want to spend that extra $100 a month. Do that now so that your family can be prepared, even if it's a smaller policy and it grows as you grow or as your income grows. It's really important. We were fortunate to be able to, have a policy through my husband's workplace. However, what we thought we were protected from a life insurance policy actually was for accident insurance. And so, when I call up to, oh, I can get this chunk of money because I need bills to pay, we find out that, we don't apply. And we've had this policy for years and years and years and just never checked on it. So that's a really important factor. Know what you have and be willing to, think about the future and what could happen.
So true. We got to know what we have, because you're right, Michelle. So many people think that they have coverage when, in fact, when you read the fine print, it isn't exactly what we thought it was.
Yep. And it does come down to that fine print. Absolutely.
It sure does. It sure does. Michelle, you also mentioned that your husband took care of the personal finances and you took care of the business finances. Will you please share with us, because you have such an amazing business, and it's a business that really helps us greatly in our side of business too, because you have a business that will allow people to get rid of some of their stuff in a very cool way. So will you share with us a little bit about your business and where it is and what it is?
Sure. The name of our company is Trading Places, and we are a furniture consignment store. We're located in Dublin. We've been in business for 11 years, have grown and expanded over the years, just for the sheer factor is there's so many things to sell out in the marketplace. And what we do is we help people sell furniture that are moving, downsizing, upsizing, just redesigning, repurposing things. We place those items in our showroom. We act as the sales and marketing team, and our goal is to match up a piece of furniture with an incoming buyer. So we're really kind of like Jill, like what you do. You're finding a buyer for the house on the market. We do the same thing with furniture, and we have a great showroom in Dublin. We're located off of Sawmill Road over I guess east of Bridge Park, between Sawmill Road and the new Bridge Park. And we have it's never a boring store. It changes every day, and we love when you sell a house and somebody needs to get rid of furniture and we can sell it for them. And we also love when people buy a house and just need to start over and decorate their house. So we're happy to help.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And we're, again, so grateful that you'll share a little bit about your personal story. It means so much to us. And again, we're so sorry about your loss. And gosh, if there's anybody that can support Michelle in going to her business, I'm telling you, it is a fun place to go. And if any of you are struggling with letting go of some of your personal things, take it to Michelle and let her repurpose it and give it to somebody that loves it. I'll tell you, there's not a greater feeling than that, giving it to someone else that can love it like you did. So check her out at Trading Places there in Dublin. Michelle, thanks again so much for joining us. We really appreciate you and your business.
Thank you, and have a great night.
Yeah, you too. You too. So please, guys, any questions that you have, make sure that you're putting that in the chat. And it is true. I just want to reiterate again, listen, here at the Kathy Chiero Group, we have been through many of your homes. And I think, if I remember correctly, there's a lot of you that hold back in thinking that you can't bring us out to your home because you have too much stuff. And so I just want to share with you that, listen, that can't be the case. We're so good at what we do. We can help you to organize that and manage that, to get it to somebody like Michelle to help you eliminate it, so that we can help you with probably one of the greatest assets that you have that maybe can put some of your life planning in motion, especially with this super hyper sellers market that we're experiencing. So what I would like to do, Brandon, if you can get ready to queue up our thing. You know, Kathy tells you all about this great book. This is what Kathy calls her COVID project. This is her Got Stuff, Get Help book. And again, this kind of goes in line with what Michelle was talking about, and being able to sell it, donate it, move it, store it, organize it, or just simply junk it. There's some really great information here, and I want to share a little bit about that with you.
Got too much stuff?
Got too much stuff? Of course you do. Downsizing expert Kathy Chiero.
Got stuff?
Got stuff? Get help. The complete guide to the who to,
and how
where to, and how to of getting rid of stuff. This easy-to-use reference book features over 100
Columbus-based businesses and nonprofit organizations. Sell it, donate it, toss it, organize it. It's all here. New York Times best-selling author Peter Walsh offers his decluttering tips, and Kathy shares her insights from years of helping homeowners just like you. Read the stories of local business owners, find value in the things you were going to throw away, and be encouraged to start your own journey to a simpler life. Get your copy today. Got stuff? Get help. The book is $30 plus tax and shipping. Order your copy today at downsizecolumbus.com. Look for the Got Stuff, Get Help link.
Yeah, so this really is a great resource that we would love to share with you. And I'll share a little bit more about that later. But, you know, once you eliminate and you learn how to eliminate your things, one of the places that we may find ourselves at is Northwest Title. Northwest Title is a great partner of the Kathy Chiero Group. And we're just so grateful for their knowledge and what they bring to the table. And I think that this evening, the information that Scott Stevenson is going to share with you, it will blow your mind if you haven't heard it before. Scott, we're so thankful that you're with us this evening, and we look forward to the information that you're going to share with our viewers.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jill. Thanks, everybody, for having me on your screen today. I've got a little video, and it's about taxes. I don't know about you, but as we're looking at retirement and those things, I think it's on everyone's agenda. tax issues, right? How do we lessen the tax ramifications of our real estate? Brandon, I'm not seeing the video up here on the video screen. If you could pull that up for me there, that'd be great. I'll get to that. But what I want to talk about is if you're selling real estate, is there tax ramifications? Are there tax ramifications for the sale of your home or investment property? And there can be, but let me go through it. Brandon, you having any luck there with the videos? I'm not seeing it pop up here on the area it should be. File, slides, there it is. I see it. I was in the video screen. I apologize, everybody. Let's see here. Whoops. How do we make that start? There we go. Ah. Wait. Whoa. Hold on a second. Let me get back to it. Here we go. Here it is. I swear I'll get it, everybody. I swear. There it is. There it is, everyone. Scott Stevenson again, Northwest Title. Mom and Dad started the company in 1967. Mom and pop shop here in Central Ohio. We have 160 employees now. And we handle real estate transactions all over Ohio and the United States. Sales, purchases, refinances. But I want to talk about a 1031 exchange and taxes. It's tax time, right? We got a little extension this year to the middle of the month. But a lot of times people with investment real estate don't realize that there's a way to not have to pay capital gains taxes at the sale of investment property. And that is if you're buying other investment property. Normally in a 1031 exchange, you're selling your investment property. Let's say you have a double on campus and you are now looking to buy something else to hold as an investment. But one thing that changed back in 2008 is that the IRS came out and said, you know what, you can move into your investment property and not have any taxable event if you're moving in and making it your primary residence, something that we really didn't expect under the 1031 exchange ramifications. So I want to get into that. A lot of folks that have investment property, especially if you've had it for many years, there's an expense, right? For maintaining the property, keeping the appliances going. And then, of course, there's the expense of your time when dealing as a landlord. A lot of my clients over the years have tired of getting those phone calls about the leaky faucets and such. And they really want to get into a property or an investment property that doesn't have those requirements, maybe something that's maintained by others. So when we think about that, especially right now with what Jill was talking about, in that, it's a seller's market, folks. It is a seller's market. We've never seen it like this. They're paying more than they should for the properties. If you go to sell your investment property or even your principal residence, you're going to be surprised at the number that's going to be presented to you. But when we're thinking about it from a tax situation, oh my gosh, if I sell that investment property, what kind of capital gains taxes would I owe? Well, with this conversion ability that happened in 2008, you could invest in that dream home in Key West or San Diego or wherever your dream home may be, taking your investment property, investing it into that dream home, and then after a few years of holding it out as an investment property, you can move into it without capital gains taxes. But let's talk about taxes generally. The IRS code starts off with this kind of basic idea. Any income that you receive, any gain from the sale of an asset is going to be taxed, right? That is what the IRS code starts out as. But then they created exemptions or exceptions to that rule. One of them that you need to know is that when you sell your principal residence, where you live on a daily basis, your personal home, when you sell that, there is an exception under Section 121 of the IRC, or the Internal Revenue Code. And what it says is that if you're a single person and you sell your home, the first $250,000 of profit is exempt from being taxed at capital gains rates or any rates. You're not going to have a tax on the first $250,000 as an individual or $500,000 as a married couple. That's a lot of profit that would not be taxable when you sell your principal residence. So that is Section 121. You're not going to have capital gains taxes when you sell your home unless you're talking about a huge increase in value. That's a lot. I've never seen that here in Central Ohio. But if you have investment property, there is another section of the code that allows you to not have to pay, but defer until a future time, maybe never, capital gains taxes. So under Section 1031, and that's really the code number that we're talking about, it says that if you sell investment property and take the proceeds and reinvest it into other investment property, you will not have to pay capital gains taxes. And when we're talking about taxes, what are we talking about here? There's short-term and long-term capital gains. Short-term is if you went and bought some stock in AT&T today, and after a few weeks you sell it, that would be a short-term capital gain. Any increase in value you received from that sale of that stock, it would end up being regular income to you. You know, your personal income, and it would be a part of those brackets if you're at the 26%, 27, 36, maybe even 39 here in the near future. But if you're selling investment real estate, it's a fixed tax amount. In this case, our current long-term capital gains rate, especially for the sale of real estate investment property, is currently taxed at 20%. If you're a high-income individual, like the Gates family, I think we're all seeing about the divorce today. If you're seeing the Gates, they're going to probably have a higher rate, probably a little bit higher, 23 to 24%. If you're making less, you might have a little bit less than 20%. But that's the capital gains tax that normally people would pay if they sell investment real estate right now. But it might even be more, because even when you sell that investment property, not only is there a 20% capital gains tax rate, there's also a depreciation recapture that may be included in that number. If you've been depreciating that property and using it as a pot away at tax time, you might have to pay a portion of that back at the same time. So this tax amount can be sizable. But if you were able to reinvest those funds from the sale of investment property into other investment property under the 1031 exception, you can really have some great benefits. One of them is obviously going from something where you're managing that property, you're the landlord on call. Maybe you get into a property that's managed by others. That's a huge benefit to a lot of my clients. Another one that I like to remind folks is, what if you've already depreciated that investment property you've held? If you do a 1031 exchange and buy new investment property, you can start depreciating that new property as well. So there's some double benefits here for those with investment property. They call it a like-kind exchange, but don't get confused by it. It doesn't matter what type of property you're holding. You might have some vacant land here in the city. You might have some farmland somewhere in the city. Maybe you own some land down in the Hocking Hills. As long as you're holding it out as an investment, that works. Doesn't matter what's on it. You can exchange that for apartments, for a condo in Florida, for maybe that beautiful house in Montana you've been thinking about. As long as you're intending to hold it as an investment, it works for 1031 exchange purposes. There is a little catch here. There is a timeline to this process where when the day you sell the relinquished property, is what they call it, the property you're selling, the investment property you're selling, that day that it's sold starts a timeline. You have 45 days to tell the qualified intermediary, and that's what I do, what properties you may purchase within 180 days. So you have a 6-month time frame to sell and then buy other investment property. But this converting it to your principal residence. I don't know about you, but when I think about, oh gosh, I'll sell the house that I currently have, and I'll take whatever proceeds I receive, whatever profit I have from the sale, and I'll probably have to downsize into something, maybe a condo, smaller condo than I wanted down in Florida. I got a thing for Naples. Maybe I want to move to Naples, but it's pricey down there. Well, if you have investment real estate that has some money in it, some equity in it, you can sell that property, buy the condo that you really love down in Naples, and then after a few years, you can move into it without ever having a taxable event. So in 2008, and this is what the IRS said, that if you buy replacement property, so again, you've sold investment property, let's say you've got a double on campus right now, you sell that, you take those funds, you buy the condo of your dreams down in Florida, if you hold it as an investment for 2 years, only 2 12-month periods, then you can move into it as your principal residence. But during those 2-year period, those 2 12-month periods, you can rent it out for at least 14 days. A lot of the condos down there in Florida have a management company right on the first floor that they'll take care of your property for you. Better yet, you can still go down there and vacation in it during those 2 years that you're holding it out as an investment, or for however long you want to hold it. You can spend up to 14 days or 10% of the days that you rented it out. How would the IRS know that you spent more time there? I'm not sure. I don't know who would actually tell them that they spent more than the 14 days, but you can continue to use it even as a vacation home for you during that period that you're holding it out as an investment. So let's think of it this way. If you did an exchange, selling your investment property here in Columbus, buying that dream condo down in Florida on January 2012, for the next 2 years, you would hold it out as an investment. You would have the management company there at the condo association go ahead and rent it and maintain it for you during those 2 years. You could also spend time in during the 2 years that you held it out as an investment, as a vacation place. After the 2 years is over, that is when the IRS says you can go ahead and move into that condo and call it your primary residence. So you sold your primary residence, didn't have any capital gains under Section 121 for the sale of your home here in Columbus. You moved into the vacation rental that you've had down in Florida after a few years of letting it cure as an investment. Again, no capital gains taxes. If you die in the property and it goes to the kids through your trust or your probate estate, they're going to get a stepped up basis. Again, no taxes being paid. Or if you do, in my example here, let's say we stay in the property, we own the property for a full 6 years, the first 2 being the investment period. The next 4, between January and 14 to 18, you live in it as your primary residence. If you do decide to sell that condo, you've shrunk the amount of potential capital gains because of the 6 years that you owned it. 2 of them were held as an investment. That 1/3 or 2 years, 1/3 of the overall value could be taxed at capital gains rate, even in this. The longer you stay in the property as your principal residence, the less of a tax ramification you're going to have. So if you have investment real estate, think about a 1031 exchange. You might not have realized that you can use those assets to purchase your dream home. And those that are thinking about selling their own personal residence, remember, there isn't a tax on the first $250,000 or $500,000 if you're a married couple for any profits from the sale of your home. Obviously, 1031 exchanges are very specific fact patterns. If you've got questions, it's probably best to call or email me, and we can talk more. That's really what I'd love to provide to you is if you're thinking about selling investment property and then doing a 1031 exchange, let's talk about the options that might be available to you. My direct phone number and email address are right there on the screen. So everyone, good luck out there, and thanks for your time today to talk about taxes.
Scott, thank you so much for that information. And I'll tell you, I would select any one of those houses that you had in any one of your graphics as a 1031 exchange property for myself. I just want you to know.
Well, I put my favorites up there, but I'll tell you, a lot of my clients right now, they're buying up Gatlinburg, Tennessee. They're buying up Arkansas, Montana. They're not looking for investment property per se, but they're looking for a property that may become their principal residence later in life.
Yeah, and Scott, when you say that, what is the definition of investment property? Is that investment just something that's not your primary?
Yeah, it would definitely not be your primary home where you live, your principal residence. Obviously, that is not investment property. It is not a second home. It is not a second home. So if you've got a place down in South Carolina that is just yours and you just go down there on your own, that won't count. But if you hold it out as an investment, if you're showing it on your tax returns as an investment property, if you're having it rented out, obviously that's going to indicate that. But I do have clients that have investment real estate, just real estate that they purchase, especially down in Hocking County, the Hocking Hills area. They have acreage. They're not doing anything with it, but it is an investment. They're holding it as an investment. Even that, the sale of that can be used. I'll tell you, I had a lot of clients over in the St. Clairsville, Wheeling, West Virginia area of the state. St. Clairsville is on the Ohio side. They sold the mineral rights because of the fracking that was going on out there for millions and millions of dollars to these oil companies. And they did 1031 exchanges to buy investment property, whether it was condos in Vegas or wherever it is that these individuals wanted to spend some more time, or maybe hold it as an investment and turn it into their principal residence later when they were ready to retire.
Yeah. Scott, this is amazing information. Again, folks, this is just another vehicle in which to buy and sell property. And again, what I'm so grateful for, Scott, is that as agents, I know that you're getting ready to do a 1031 tax exchange class for us agents, so that you bring us up to date so that we can educate our clients. So very, very appreciative. And of course, we love partnering with you in any of our real estate transactions and getting our stuff to the closing table. You have an amazing staff and group of people that work with you, and we're just so grateful for all the service that you provide. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Just following in my parents' footsteps, we like to treat our clients like family, and that's what we stick to here at Northwest Title. Thanks for having me, Jill.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Well, I want to encourage you, if you have not had the opportunity to put your question in the chat, we'd love for you to do that. We have a couple that we'll be getting to here in just a moment, and we'll have our presenters come back and answer some of those questions. Again, I want to talk a little bit about our market and what we're experiencing here. As I said in the last little chat, that we would love the opportunity to come out and talk to you and to see what you have. A lot of people say, well, you know, what's the next step? Literally, there's a no obligation approach here for Kathy or one of us on the team to come out and visit you, to share with you, to come up with a plan, and to share with you the tips and things that you're going to find in Kathy's book here. This really is a wonderful resource. And in fact, when we come out and see you, this is our gift to you. We are bringing this because we want to share. We are a very education-based team, and we want to educate you about the process and the decisions that you're making in, for most people, this is the largest investment that you're dealing with in your home. And we want to make sure that you have all of the right answers to the questions to be able to make those best decisions, from your wills and trusts to learning from people like Michelle. I'm sure that one of the greatest things that she would take away from this is hoping to help someone else from falling into the same situation that she did. And then from learning different avenues of how we can protect and purchase properties maybe in the future through our partnership with Northwest Title. So I'm just so grateful for everybody this evening. I hope that you've learned a lot, as I do every time I sit in and listen. I'd like to take a moment now and go through some of the questions that we have here. So Tim, I think that these first couple of questions are going to be directed towards you. So hoping that you can give us some insight here. Asking specifically the definition of a trust, and how often should you update your will or trust?
Sure. So as far as what a trust is, I don't want to get lost in the weeds, because us attorneys have the tendency of doing that. We loved the legal technical answers, but think of a trust as just another way that you can own your assets, your home, your bank accounts, your investment accounts. And one of the primary benefits of using a trust is everything you have in there when you pass away, or if you're married, when you both pass away, everything in the trust will bypass probate. Now, there are other tools that can do the same thing. So using a trust is not the only way to do that. One of the main reasons why we often will recommend using a trust to someone is because we can set it up in a way that when the inheritance gets down to the kids or whoever the beneficiaries are, it's set up in a way that no one can ever take that inheritance away from them. So things like divorces, bankruptcies, lawsuits, the only one who can ever get their hands on that inheritance money is your beneficiaries, and then only over their share. Additionally, using trust, we can build in all the what if scenarios. What if, God forbid, one of the beneficiaries dies before the owner of those assets? We'll already have those contingencies built in to address any of those scenarios. But like I said earlier, there are many different types of trusts. Each one is designed for a very specific situation. But generally speaking, that's what a trust does. It allows you to bypass probate and protect the inheritance for your beneficiaries. And then as far as how often someone's plan should be reviewed, for our clients, we like to get back together about every 3 years, just as a double check to find out what's going on in their lives. If there's been any changes in the family dynamics, just to see if that would warrant changing the plan at all.
Awesome. What about, are there pros and cons to having beneficiaries listed on money assets?
So the pros with doing it that way is that if you have beneficiaries listed on those assets, then when you pass away, or if you're married, when you and your spouse pass away, the assets would go to the beneficiaries that you've listed on that asset without ever stepping foot in the probate court. So generally speaking, it is a good idea to add beneficiaries, if you're able to. The one thing that beneficiary designations don't help with is if someone would need long-term care. And remember, Medicaid is the program that would pay for that, and that is a means-tested program. So the rules for how to bypass probate versus the rules for how to protect your assets from the Medicaid spend down are completely different. So it really comes down to what are the goals that the person is trying to accomplish by naming beneficiaries on those accounts.
And again, Tim, I would imagine that some of these questions, and maybe these are kind of questions maybe that aren't asked here in our form, but certainly I'm sure that you would welcome them setting up a consultation where you can answer these questions in a greater level specific to what they have going on in their own situations.
And absolutely. And as a thank you for including us in this presentation, Jill, if anyone does want to sit down and talk with us, we'll waive our consultation fee. And then I see a question here, and it's marked private, so I don't know, Jill, if you can see it. It says, is a trust needed if our home is in both me and my wife's name? IRA has beneficiaries named, no other major assets. So again, it really depends on what that person is trying to accomplish with a trust. If really the only goal is bypassing probate, then no, we don't need a trust to do that. There are easier, less expensive ways to bypass probate. And as far as the house, if it's owned by you and your spouse, as long as it's set up in survivorship, meaning on the death of the first of you, it'll automatically revert to the survivor, then you won't go through probate at that time. However, when the surviving spouse passes away, unless we do something else in the meantime, that is when the house would go through probate. So very important that every asset is set up in a way so that it doesn't have to go through the probate process.
And again, I think that's one of the very important things about our meetings and what we share with you is that there's different decisions to make at every level, right? And that's why it's important that we become educated about these things. Tim, I think that there's one more here that is probably classified under your subject here. If a homeowner is in assisted living, which is better to gift or change the title deed on a house to a son now or after death?
So, yeah, it really depends. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm dodging the question, but it really depends on what the end result, what we're trying to accomplish. If the only concern is bypassing probate, there's many ways to do that. You could add a transfer on death to the deed, naming whoever you want that the property to go to when you pass, but that won't protect the house from the Medicaid spend down. So if someone is concerned about losing the house possibly to to Medicaid, then bypassing probate is not the main issue. It's how do we protect that house so that Medicaid doesn't get their hands on it. Unfortunately, I'm not able to just say, here's what everyone should do. It's very much a case-by-case analysis. But if the questioner is concerned about possibly losing the house to long-term care expenses, that is a scenario that I would really need to sit down with them and talk through that situation in a whole lot more detail before I could tell them what the best plan would be. Now, again, we're not charging anyone the consultation fee who attended this presentation. If you want to learn how to do that, we'd be happy to talk with you.
Tim, thank you so much, because I think that, again, what a great opportunity to have a consultation with somebody that can really direct them in the right direction. So thank you again for your information. We really appreciate your participation this evening. I
appreciate you not making me go after Scott, because he is a tough act to follow.
He is. He's got some good stuff, doesn't he?
He does.
Yes. And in fact, let's look. We've got just a few more minutes because I want to really stay close to our time here. Scott, question here is, can you sell a second home or a vacation home without paying capital gains tax?
Yeah, that's a tough one. It really depends on how you've shown that property on your tax returns for the last so many years. Remember, the 1031 is specifically for investment property, selling investment property, buying others. I would probably refer you back to maybe an accountant to take who might have assisted with your tax returns. I'd start there and talk about, would you be comfortable signing off on my return showing this as an investment property? I guess that's where I would start. The other side of it, another workaround, if it's possible for this person, would be, selling your principal residence here, moving into the second home as your principal residence for a period of a few years, and then taking advantage again of Section 121, which was, if you sell your principal residence, you're not going to have any capital gains taxes on the first $250,000 or $500,000 of profit for a married couple. So, I mean, if that's a feasible thing, you would actually have to live in that second home for 3 of the last 5 years before the sale to be able to use the advantage of Section 121. But on the 1031 side of things, if we're looking at the 1031 and we're selling investment property and buying something else with the sale of that second home, I want you to talk to your accountant. It's almost like what Tim was talking about a moment ago. We're so fact specific in this question, just like the deeding a property while you're in assisted living. It's so fact specific. I'd rather talk individually about it. Get into the details of how you've used the property. Have you rented it out? Is it on VRBO? Is it, what else can we do maybe right now to set that up as an investment property over the next few years? So that might be something there. Well, I can't hear you.
When I think about the information, being at a closing table and working with the seller, even those questions that come on that form are written as double negatives, and they're very hard to understand, right? I mean, hard to understand for those of us that do this every single day. And so when you're explaining it to somebody that does a transaction like this, how many times in their lifetime, it can be very confusing. So Scott, we're very, very thankful for your insight on this. Grateful that you're here with us this evening.
Do you mind if I answer one other question real quick?
Please.
Yeah, there was one in here about what is profit?
Yes.
So sale of, I'm going to sell my principal residence and how much, what is profit? Well, you have to start with your tax basis. So when you purchased the property, you probably brought pre-tax dollars. You already paid taxes on the money you had saved, right? You have spent that to purchase the home. Well, when you go to sell it, you shouldn't be taxed again on money that you've already been taxed on that you used to buy the property, right? So we're talking about tax basis. So whatever you spent that was pre-tax dollars to buy the house. If you put on a new roof, did you add that $8,000 heating and cooling system that made you cry in February when you found out you needed a new one? yeah, that is a part of your tax basis. So anything that you've been spending on the home to improve it is a part of that tax basis. There's also closing costs, any costs that you're paying at the sale of the property or to get the property ready, that would be included in your tax basis, raising the amount of the basis that you have. Then it's the difference between that number and the sale price that we're really talking about as profit. Mortgages don't count, but expenses can reduce the taxes that could be due, or how you would calculate capital gains. So profit isn't just, hey, I sold it for $500, but I didn't have a mortgage, so it's $500,000 profit. No. What did you pay for it? What did you spend on it to improve it? Those all add to your tax basis, and you're not going to be taxed on that tax basis again.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for yet another level of understanding. I want to end our time this evening with giving you some insight about what's coming up next. Our next Transition Tuesday event will be held on May 18th. So we've got a little bit of time in between that. May 18th is our residential. This is where you're going to learn what your home is worth and what you can do to make it worth more. And so again, one of the things that we'd like to share with you during that time is, especially in this market that we're experiencing now, there may be some things that you think are on your list that you would have to do in order to sell your home. And we're standing there saying, no, in this market, it's not necessary for you to paint your garage floor or to add new lighting fixtures or this or that. So again, we encourage you to get in touch with us so we can come out, give you a consultation. Again, no obligation, free of charge. We will even bring this wonderful, wonderful resource with us that we can share with you to help you eliminate, repurpose, sell, and donate some of the things that you find filling your home that you are probably struggling with, thinking, what do we do with all of our stuff? So we want to share that with you as well. And then listen, I'm so excited about this event that we have coming up October 31st. It is a party of sorts. This will be our Downsize Columbus fall event. Many of you have been to them before, but we just want to invite you, put this date on your calendar, save this date right now, because it is going to be a party. It's going to be a mask party, and we're hoping at that time that masks maybe won't be required, so we can wear the masks for fun. So it's going to be a costume party, if you will. There will be lots of door prizes and things like that will be happening, and we want to invite you to that. So we've really had a great evening with you tonight. We want to thank you so much for spending some of it with us. We look forward to answering any other questions that you may have. You can find us at downsizecolumbus.com. downsizecolumbus.com, or you can go to our other page, which is ourohiohome.com. We'd love to meet with you, love to come out, take a walk through your home, give you some insight about what the market would bear for your home. And we will look forward to seeing you again on May 18th for our residential Transition Tuesday. Have a great evening, everybody. Good night.